with her talk, P.U.S.H, which is standing for pray until something happens. But just before I do that, I noticed that we have a lot of new people in the audience, and a lot of us are parents. And I just want to remind all of our parents that at our center, children are welcome to move freely while the talk is on, through meditation, through anything that is happening at the center. If you as a parent are here in the room and your child they do not have to stay in Fun Day School. They can come and go as many times as they want. They will not be disturbing anyone. My daughter, 3 years old, she'd come and sit up here with Judy. While Judy was giving her talk, Haley would come up and stand here, and that is okay. These are our growing lights in our world, and we want them to feel as free as possible while we're here at the center, so that us as parents can also take in the talk without any stress or feeling that we need to keep our children in line. Okay? So now I'm going to welcome up Reverend Joanne, and I'm excited because I get to hug. And again, her talk today is P.U.S.H, standing for pray until something happens.
Everybody's supposed to bring me one, an affirmation for the growth of our center. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. I just have to open it. And before we start, I just got to get my head wrapped around having Reverend Judy here, who had a great birthday yesterday. The message from Carmen about its time. And everybody who contributed to this service today, Russ and Tress, and Lena, and Carmen, and David, and Ruth, and Edith, and Donna, and Gord, and Joanne, and who worked bingo? Them too. Okay. And I love you all, whether I clap or not. So I like to start my talk with this one phrase. Good morning, beautiful. See, there's a reason to that. I get to hear it back. Thank you. And I want to welcome you to this place of infinite possibilities, this place of endless love, this Center for Spiritual Living, Red Deer. Thank you for being here. And please join me in an opening affirmative prayer treatment by making these words true for you too. I joyfully and gratefully state there is one life, one love, one God. And I am the expression of life and love on this earth. Love flows through me as me, and I am filled with courage and strength. Love flows through me as me, and I am filled with vibrant energy. I declare and know that I am in the right place at the right time. I'm open to learning, to sharing, and to growing. Today, as I speak my word around prayer, I know without a doubt there is someone here, including me, who needs to be reminded of our divinity, of the power greater than we are in the universe, and we can use it for good, of our ability to create miracles. With loving thanks for this truth, for this Center for Spiritual Living, and all who find solace here, my heart is filled with gratitude, and I let it go. I know my word is the power unto which it's spoken, and it is done. It is complete. It is already so in the mind of God. And together we say, and so it is. As we sit in a quiet moment, let us embrace what a miracle life truly is. from the atom to the whole of the universe and all those in between. And those we send prayers to, are they not a miracle too? Thank you. Now that we're live, I'd like to invite Reverend Judy up. She's going to do us an opening treatment as well from her heart to all of you. She might have something else she wants to say too. Do you want to come up?
So long as I got something to lean on.
Okay, I'll watch for you.
And we all know what we have to lean on, and that is spiritual truth, even if it's symbolized by something physical. But please join me. Join me in knowing the good of this day, the beauty of it. It's on. Know that there is only one good, and that good can be partaken of by each one of us. Not tomorrow, not next year, not when we have a big birthday, but right now. There's a quotation from the Bible that I really love. It says, "Enter into your joy and sit down on your throne." But there's nothing about waiting. That invitation is for right here and right now, to each one of us. To pray until something happens. To enter into our joy now. To sit down upon our throne now. For the kingdom of heaven is not out there, but within us. I give loving thanks for Reverend Joanne and her wisdom and her joy and her love. I give thanks for each being in this room. I give thanks for the celebration we hold every Sunday morning. I let it be known that life is good, love is, I am, and so it is.
Go get Reverend Judy. Wow. Yeah, let's give her a hand. It's been too long. So today, let's just open to the possibility of what this sign says. There's a power for good in the universe greater than you are, and you can use it. Let's be open to limitless possibilities. Because today, the power that they talk about is expressing as prayer. I often talk about spiritual mind treatment, affirmative prayer, and how to do it, the steps, 1, 2, 3, 4. Today, I want to talk about the why. Why do you want to pray or do affirmation? Why? Well, because this power for good in the universe that we always refer to, it's the secret in the secret. It's the miracle and shortcut to a miracle. And why? Because everything is energy, and energy can't be destroyed. It can only be redistributed. Albert Einstein says, power is energy, and energy is power. And I know that's a tricky subject. Pray until something happens. And I know in our lives we've all been felt pushed to do something. Whether it's something that's out of our comfort zone that's good for us, or something that we don't want to do that's not so good for us. The answer to somebody being pushed by spirit or another is to P-R-A-Y. Pray until something happens. When I think about somebody pushing or me pushing myself, I pray until something happens, till it pulls me right out of myself into my consciousness, into my truth, into my light. Being pushed isn't always a bad thing, but it's where are you going? And if you pray for the truth, like I said, ask and listen to your heart, it will pull you through. So this topic came to me so literally and so metaphorically in so many ways. Jane and Susan are here, and they're in my class. I'm teaching a class right now called Shortcut to a Miracle by Reverend Elizabeth Arott. In the last couple of weeks, since we started, we've been doing affirmative prayer for each other. And it sure works. The learning and the sharing that I get from my students and the treatments, the affirmative prayers they write, it's incredible. And this book's called Shortcut to a Miracle. But there really is no shortcut to a miracle, because everything's a miracle depending on how you look at it. And the more you look for miracles, the more miracles you're going to find. I have heard some most incredible things. And the way to attract more miracles is to push. Push yourself past your comfort zone to pray until something happens. That class last week, we had so many questions about affirmative prayer and the how. And we teach this 5 steps. God is, I am, I know, thank you, and goodbye. Reverend Judy, what do you call it? God is?
God is, I am, good stuff. Thank you. Bye-bye.
So that's a great way to remember it too. There's also a 7th step where you can deny what's really happening to you, and that has a place too, because sometimes in teaching people say, you can't always be positive. Things happen. You got a pain or something. So there's a 7-step treatment where you do denial and you sandwich it with 2 affirmations. Wow, that was a big topic in the last class too, wasn't it? That's 7 steps. And in researching it, Ernest Holmes never talked about 5 steps. He talked about the 2 steps, God is and I am, and that's all he needed. Once he connected with a power greater than he is, whether you call it God or Spirit or Creator, that's all he needed. Well, that's just one example of how this topic came to me. In this book, Shortcut to a Miracle, they talk a lot about power, about the power of affirmative prayer, not only for ourselves, but how we can use this power to do affirmative prayer for other people. There's even a big discussion about power. In there it says, we are not the power. We direct the power. And I think that was so life-affirming. It was so, I don't know what that word is. It was so relaxing to know that, oh my gosh, I don't have to supply all the power. The power's already there. I just have to open and direct it into what I want. Wow. And as we went on, we did this chapter on quantum physics that talks about how an atom responds. Like if 2 atoms split and one responds here and one responds in China, there's something within them that they operate at the same level. So at a quantum level, we affect our DNA and we affect others' DNA. That's a miracle. In the New England Journal of Medicine, there was a study done at Columbia University. There was 199 women who were going through in vitro. And they asked people in Canada, the U.S., and Australia to do affirmative prayer. And they never told them. And the doctors didn't know, and the women didn't know. Maybe they did, Christian prayer. That's okay. I'm going to call it affirmative prayer, because I'm sure they were affirmative. And so after 2 months, they thought, well, nothing's going to change, really. I think the success rate was about 20 to 23% typically. After those women were prayed for, the success rate went up to 50%. Isn't that amazing that people don't even have to know that you're doing PRAY for them? It's not only effective for us, it's effective for other people. In the Harvard study, they talk about affirmative prayer. People who pray, however they pray, they live longer, as much as 8 years longer, because they have this faith that there's something that's got their back. Whatever you call it. I call it God. 8 years longer. It also gives them a better quality of life. I don't know whose quote this is. I'd love to tell you, and I meant to write it down because it's such a good one. It says, prayer, the act of prayer is 3 things: clear focus, intentional thought, and the expectancy of good. So the act of prayer is clear focus, intentional thought, and the expectancy of good. And it's so incredible when you research this prayer and people that pray. And research shows it doesn't even have anything to do with religion. It has to do with our belief system. Because the act of praying is not the how. We state what we want, and the how is up to Creator. You know, I like to do affirmative prayer really loud. If somebody's in my class, I say, "Excuse me, I can't hear you," because I think affirmative prayer is 25% words and 75% passion and purpose. So if I get really loud, I watch speakers on TV and they just talk so soft and people are on the edge of their seats. And I think, oh, I'd love to do that. But I just can't because my voice is different. I have that, mother voice. So the positive impact of prayer and meditation is indisputable. The evidence is everywhere. One of the courses I took in my ministry was by Dr. Rossman, and he studies the body-mind connection. And he says that people who don't want to pray, pray anyway, because it's very similar to meditation, and that made people feel more comfortable with it, that it wasn't a religious thing. Another course I taught was treatment and meditation, where affirmative prayer treatment is the other side of meditation. So if you don't know what to meditate on, you should do an affirmative prayer treatment. That Creator, just show me what I need to know and I will listen. And if you don't know what to do prayer treatment for, meditate. And just sit there. And I'm telling you, a question's going to come to you. And in another study, Dr. Rossman talks about how it's not even about, you don't even have to sit in silence. He did this survey, and all people did was meditate on a phrase. And it started with the 2 greatest words you'll ever hear, I am. So these people, for 4 months, all they did was meditate on I am, and they chose the end. I am love. I am health. I am abundant. I am creative. Whatever it is. They did that for 20 minutes for 4 months. And then they took some brain waves, and it was just incredible. Parts of their brain that hadn't been active since they were children. The creative part of their brain was active. So maybe that's the only thing you're going to take from today is, I'm going to practice I am. I'm going to say it for 20 minutes. Oh, maybe every day is a stretch. But maybe once a week. Just tell yourself I am for 20 minutes a day, and your life will change. So treatment is talking to God. Meditation is listening to God. I think you can't have one without the other. And also, I feel like, I'm just telling you something you could find yourself, but I did the Coles notes. So one thing that it said in there was about prayer. An amazing thing happened when they were studying prayer. And they found that people who approached God as a partner or a collaborator in their life had better mental, physical health outcomes. Wow. Imagine that. Step 1 and 2 already. And it wasn't even the Science of Mind study, but people who knew there was a collaborator or a partner, whether you call it God or a power greater than you are, you'll have better outcomes. Wow, that's science of mind in itself. And that's the science behind it. Spiritually, you'll find this message in the Bible too. In Luke chapter 18, it says, always pray and don't lose heart. And the thing to remember about affirmative prayer, I thought about, well, what if it doesn't work? And so I had these 3 ideas. 3 things could happen when you do affirmative prayer. The first thing is you get your prayer answered right away. Wow, now your faith is increasing. The second thing is you got to wait a while because you never know how long it's going to take. Your patience increases. Sometimes your prayer isn't answered at all. And what's that about? Well, I can tell you without a doubt, it's because there's something better out there for you. So I like to talk about when I do affirmative prayer, it doesn't matter how good my life is, I want this or something better. So it's never a loss. It's either faith or patience or something greater. Because, like Ernest Holmes says, get your bloated nothingness out of the way and leave the how to something greater than you are. Just because you don't see it working doesn't mean it's not working. Thomas Troward, in his The Hidden Power, talks about, and Thomas Troward was a writer, an author, a philosopher. Was he ever a minister, Reverend Judy?
No, he was a judge in India.
A judge in India. Thank you. He was a judge in India. Come on in, darling. So he says, there's a recognition which is growing day by day, more and more widespread, that there's a sort of hidden power somewhere, which is our ability. And somehow or other we can use it. We use the power when we believe, and we use power and belief in prayer. We are pushing forward our consciousness to a greater and greater experience of life. That's all that my talk was about. He wrote that nearly 100 years ago. It's still true. Only now we have more science. We have quantum science that tells us the spiritual reality of today. I could tell you all sorts of information about P.U.S.H. and how it can manifest in your life. But I also believe that people are not really changed by information. They're changed by inspiration. So I want to tell you a true story. Oh, might need a Kleenex. So about 7 years ago, this little girl was born. She weighed 1 pound, 3 ounces, and had a 10% chance of survival. There was never one doubt in my son's mind that she was going to live. They did some terrible things, they told them some terrible things about her. And he said to me once, I said to that doctor when he wanted to stop giving her life support, he says, it's not up to you, it's up to God. And so you just leave her plugged in until she lets go. So I came home, I had a class that night, I didn't want to, but I came home and I had a big class, about 10 people, and we talked about it, and they started praying. And the prayer started in class and grew into social media and grew into something greater than we ever dreamed. And my son doesn't go to church anymore, but he really believes in God. This was some time when we were all pushed to our limits. I have to tell you, this little girl, she's almost 7 years old now, and she is a miracle. She has a limp. She just had surgery. And I tell her she has CP, they call it cerebral palsy. I call it Charlotte power. I say, well, how's your Charlotte power today, Charlotte? And so I know from first experience the power of prayer. I'm sure you've been pushed to the limit. And the greatest gift we have is faith. And you can have faith too if you pray until something happens. When I start my talk, I often wonder, how will I ever fit everything I want to say into 20 minutes? How will I ever inspire people? That's my mission. When I took my ministry, I said, my mission is to teach people how important it is to say affirmative prayer for themselves and for others. And if nothing else, that's all I want from the world, for people to know that they're loved and that we don't have to tell them. We can tell them spiritually, quantumly, how much they're loved. So it's my intention today that when you leave, something speaks to you spiritually, physically, quantumly, and empowers you to use this power for good. Just waiting for your call. So let's get to an affirmative prayer. Because I can't leave out doing one when I talked about the power of it. And I already told Russell, I think I'll pick on you today, Russell. What can we do an affirmative prayer for? I won't tell you the story. Okay, well, I got to tell you the story. You know, you guys are all kind of my age, so do you remember in the 70s when we used to put those tight jeans on, get down with the pliers and pull your zipper up? Did nobody else do that? Oh, Carmen, oh, yeah. Well, today Russell got up and put his dress pants on. He thought, I haven't worn these for a while, and they're a little tight. So they shrunk. Yeah, but he did have a helping hand. So today he liked me to do treatment for prayer. I think he sits in the background far too anonymously. No more, Russell. So he wants an affirmative prayer around health. You know, Ernest Holmes says there's 4 pillars to a happy, healthy life. One of them is health, love, creativity, and abundance. And if you have those 4 things in your life, you have a great life. And if you have them all in the same day, well, bonus. That's a miracle. So today, we're going to do a treatment for Russell's health. However that unfolds, and I think of health as wellness. Not necessarily never having a problem, but that you feel well. You feel good. You feel well. So the first thing is, I want you guys to yell out some words. What is God to you? Love. Did you say something? Gratitude. Faith. Spirit. Beauty. Power. Rejuvenation. Everything. Wow. Pardon? Compassion. Support. That is the power. And all these things that you've talked about are the things that you need to connect with. They're the things that you need in your affirmation. So the first thing I sit down when I'm doing an affirmation, and you too, think about all the words that come to you when you think about God. What comes to you? I think about Carmen and compassion. She's walking compassion in her prayer ministry and support. I know where Lena got that from. Russell, what's your word? Strength. Isn't that amazing how that rolls into an affirmative prayer treatment? Let's take 4 things. Let's take love, strength, compassion, and support. Wow, those are 4 things that will bring Russell to his complete wellness. So, God is love, compassion, support, and strength. And because that's a power that he's opening to, that he's open to, that's what he's channeling. He's a channel of light, of God's power. So, Russell is all of those things. But when I'm doing an affirmative prayer, I ask them, what are the qualities of God that resonate with you? And then I'll repeat them back. I'll say, there is only one power, one purpose, one God. This God is love, compassion, support. I already forgot your word, Russell. Strength. Oh, yeah, I must need that. Love, compassion, support, and strength. And so am I. Because Russell and I are one, I claim that for myself. I am support, compassion, love, and strength. And I speak these words for Russell, knowing that as we are one, this is the truth for every one of us. And then I start with the affirmation. I declare and know without a shadow of a doubt that this body on this earth that I call Russell is perfect, just the way it is. And if there is something within Russell that he would like to adjust, make a little adjustment, I know that he's got all the support he needs to do that. I know he's loved regardless, but he's got the love he needs. I know he gives himself great compassion and support. And as this beautiful Russell unfolds into his divine wellness, however that manifests, with ease and grace, he goes through life full of energy and vitality. And the next time he puts those pair of pants on, he says, Tress, come here. Look at this. They are so great. I need a belt. Oh, yes. And then the last thing is to be so grateful. I am so grateful for health. I am so grateful for love, compassion, for support and strength, for the Center for Spiritual Living and all the chairs filled to capacity and all those who love it here. I am grateful. And then I have to have total faith, so I have to let it go. I let it go. I know it's already done. Return to me, multiplied and overflowing. In our teaching, we release it into the law of mind, because the law of mind says it's done exactly as you believe. I release this into the law of mind. I know it is done. I let it go. And together we say, so it is. So thank you for listening to my big, long explanation about when you're pushed spiritually, something happens until you feel the pull of spirit into peace. Push until you feel moved to move forward, until you're pulled into your own peace and your own truth and your own divinity. Pray until something happens. I am Reverend Joanne, faith, peace, and love, Boruck. And I love you all. Thank you so much. Now it gives me great joy to ask Aidan to come up and do our close of service. Adrian, I know that.